Today we're going to be praying for missions, and we're going to be praying for missionaries. Every single one of us is called to be an evangelist, right? We talk about personal evangelism. Then there are people that are called to the front lines. They are called to reach people that are not reached by the gospel. These are people that are literally, they have a calling on their life to be missionaries. And that's the group of people that we want to pray about today. The world breaks down into two categories. There's more, but there's two distinct kind of categories when we talk about the gospel and the spread of the gospel. One is people groups that are reached, and then unreached people groups, or UPG for short. There are places in the world that are labeled UPG, unreached people groups. What that means is that the local population, there is no local community that is Christian. There is no local community that can have the potential and resources to spread the gospel in their own country. And so usually the way that they break it down is, if in a country there are less than 2% of evangelical Christians, or less than 5% of any other type of Christian group, that is an unreached people group. That means there are no adequate resources for that small group of people to reach the rest of the nation. And that's where missionaries go. That's the front lines of mission work. And it is very dangerous. It is very difficult, both practically and spiritually. And so why we're praying about this group of people is because when you look at the Bible and you look at one of the greatest missionaries that we have, both practically, his story, and at the same time his writings, that's Apostle Paul. He's one of the greatest missionaries that we have access to see how he operated, how he led his missionary work and lived out his calling. And when you look into his story, what you can't help but see is that he never considered himself as a missionary, kind of like a Rambo style person where he's alone, he's doing the work, and he's kind of out there on the front lines. He always made sure that people understood that he couldn't do it alone. In fact, he relied on prayers. Almost every single epistle, almost every single letter he wrote to different churches includes some sort of invitation for them to pray for him, to join him in the mission that God gave him by praying for him. Let me give you a couple examples. In Colossians 4:2-4, it says, "Continue steadfastly in prayer, being watchful in it with thanksgiving. At the same time, pray also for us, that God may open to us a door for the word to declare the mystery of Christ, on account of which I am in prison, that I may make it clear which is how I ought to speak." The point is, he's saying, friends, pray that God would open doors so that the gospel can go forward. In Ephesians 6:19, he says, also for me, he's saying, praying for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel. So he's saying, God, first of all, pray for church, pray for me that doors would be opened so that I can practically bring the gospel. Number two, when I open my mouth, pray that God fills it with the right words so that I can give this mystery to the local population that I'm working with. And lastly, 2 Thessalonians 3:1-2 says, "Finally, brothers, pray for us that the word of the Lord may speed ahead and be honored as happened among you, and that we may be delivered from wicked and evil men, for not all have faith." So here he's praying, and he's asking the church to pray and saying, hey, can you guys pray so that God saturates the soil ahead of us? So that when we arrive, we're arriving and we are planting seeds where God has already saturated. Remember, God is the author of all salvation. That means that he has a unique salvation plan for each person. He's working on people way before anybody even gives them the gospel. He's already drawing them. And so what he's saying here is, pray that the word of the Lord may speed ahead, and may it be honored. May it already, the ground be saturated, so when we come, we can plant the seed and it'll be effective and there will be a harvest. And the last thing he says is, pray that we would be delivered from wicked men. Pray against all those who want to give us harm. Once again, I mentioned there are practical things that stand in the way, from the local population, their customs, and their how closed-minded they are to the gospel, to the enemies of the gospel, people who are actively working to destroy those on the front lines. And so what I'm asking for us to do is, today, make it a point. You can choose a country. You can go online and research it if you want, but choose something or someone, or maybe missionaries, or you support local missionaries, or foreign missionaries. Whatever it is, but pray for missions today so that we can partner with these folks And I'd go even further and say, make this something that you do every month. Get your kids involved in it if you have children, so that we can begin seeing the big picture, that we are part of a huge kingdom that is expanding. And we're not just sitting somewhere behind enemy lines. We can join those that are behind enemy lines by praying for them. God bless you.